38 experts failed to solve the 689 millionaires tests until an 8-year-old poor girl revealed a secret that changed everything and left them in shock. But what was this devastating secret? Before we begin, our community spans all continents. If you feel comfortable, mention your city's name in the comments. If you appreciate being part of this global community, please like and follow our channel. The heavy oak doors of the Blackwood Tower conference room burst open with a thunderous crash. 38 of America's brightest minds, Harvard professors, Wall Street titans, Silicon Valley innovators, turned in shock as a small figure marched through the entrance. Emma Mitchell, 8 years old, her second-hand sneakers squeaking against the marble floor, stood defiantly in her faded pink jacket. "You're all wrong," she announced, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. "Every single one of you." Nathan Blackwood, the 28-year-old tech billionaire whose $689 million empire had brought them all here, leaned forward in his Italian leather chair. His cold blue eyes studied the child who had somehow bypassed his security. "And who might you be, little girl?" His voice dripped with condescension. Emma lifted her chin, brown eyes blazing with determination. "I'm the daughter of the woman you people ignore every morning when she hands you flyers outside this building. The one you call nobody." Dr. Harrison Wells, MIT's leading mathematician, stood up indignantly. "Security! How did this child—" But Nathan raised his hand, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "No, let her speak. This should be amusing. Tell me, child, what makes you think you understand something that 38 experts with combined credentials worth more than your mother will earn in 10 lifetimes cannot grasp?" Emma reached into her backpack and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, one of the test documents that had been carelessly thrown in the trash. "Because you're all trying to solve the wrong problem. You've been here for 3 weeks, and not one of you has asked the most important question." The room erupted in dismissive laughter. Attorney Patricia Coleman, the city's most ruthless corporate lawyer, shook her head. "This is ridiculous. We're wasting time with a child's fantasy." But Emma didn't flinch. She walked to the massive whiteboard where equations, legal precedents, and complex diagrams covered every inch. She grabbed a marker and drew a simple circle. "My mom taught me something when I was 5. She said the smartest person in the room isn't always the one with the most answers. It's the one who asks the right questions." Nathan's smile faltered slightly. "You have 5 minutes before I call security." Emma nodded and turned to face the room full of experts. "Mr. Blackwood's test isn't about finding the solution. It's about recognizing why the solution can't exist within the parameters you've been given. You're all so busy trying to prove how smart you are that you missed what a second grader could see." Dr. Wells scoffed. "Impossible. We've analyzed every variable." "Have you?" Emma interrupted. "Then why hasn't anyone asked why Mr. Blackwood chose exactly 38 experts? Why that specific number? Why these specific fields?" She pulled out more crumpled papers from her backpack, documents her mother had found while cleaning the offices at night. "My mom cleans your offices. She sees what you throw away. She reads what you ignore. And she taught me that the most valuable lessons come from the trash bins of people who think they're too important to notice." The room fell silent. Nathan Blackwood stood slowly, his expression unreadable. Emma's hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady. "You want to know the secret? The devastating truth none of you could see? It's been right in front of you since day one, but you'll never find it because you're looking in the wrong place. You're trying to win a game when you should be questioning why the game exists at all." She turned and walked toward the door, pausing at the threshold. "My mom will be here tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., handing out flyers like she does every day. If any of you want to learn what you're really missing, maybe try taking one for once. Maybe try seeing the invisible people who keep your world running." The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving 38 brilliant minds staring at a simple circle drawn by an 8-year-old girl. 3 weeks earlier, October 2nd, 2024, Sarah Mitchell stood outside the gleaming Blackwood Tower at 5:45 a.m., her breath forming small clouds in the crisp Chicago morning air. Her weathered hands arranged stacks of promotional flyers for a local restaurant, the same job she'd done for 3 years since her husband David died in a construction accident. At home, her daughter Emma was getting ready for school, making her own breakfast like she'd learned to do at age 6. Sarah's eyes followed the parade of expensive suits and designer heels clicking past her, each person avoiding eye contact as if poverty might be contagious. She recognized most of them, the lawyers, consultants, analysts who worked in the tower. Today, though, something was different. Black town cars lined the street like a funeral procession. "Excuse me," Sarah called to a security guard she knew as Tom. "What's happening?" Tom glanced around nervously before leaning closer. "Mr. Blackwood's running some kind of competition, brought in experts from all over the country. Word is, whoever solves his test gets a $10 million consultation contract." Sarah's heart sank. $10 million, more money than she'd see in 20 lifetimes. She returned to distributing flyers, invisible as always. Inside the tower's top floor, Nathan Blackwood surveyed his assembled guests. At 28, he'd inherited his father's tech empire, but built his reputation on being impossible to please, impossible to predict. His sharp features and cold demeanor had earned him the nickname the Ice Prince in business circles. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice echoing in the vast conference room, "you represent the finest minds in mathematics, law, psychology, economics, and technology. I've brought you here because I need something solved, and traditional thinking has failed me." Dr. Harrison Wells adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. "We're honored, Mr. Blackwood. What's the nature of the problem?" Nathan smiled, a predator's smile. "That's for you to determine. All I'll tell you is this. The answer exists at the intersection of logic and intuition, between what we know and what we refuse to see. You have 3 weeks, unlimited resources. One rule: you cannot leave this building until you solve it or admit defeat." Patricia Coleman raised her hand. "And if we succeed, $10 million, split among those who contribute to the solution. But more importantly, you'll have solved something that has eluded me for 2 years, something that cost my father his empire and his life." The room buzzed with excitement and speculation. Meanwhile, Sarah finished her morning shift and headed to her second job, cleaning offices in the same building at night. She'd never mentioned this to Emma, not wanting her daughter to know she worked 16-hour days just to keep their small apartment. That evening, Emma sat at their kitchen table working on her homework while Sarah prepared a simple dinner of pasta and vegetables. "Mom, my teacher says I'm really good at puzzles," Emma said proudly. "She says I see patterns others miss." Sarah smiled, exhaustion temporarily forgotten. "That's because you got your grandmother's gift." She could look at any problem and see right through to its heart. She used to say, "Sarah, the truth is usually hiding in plain sight, dressed up as something ordinary." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "Is that why you always read those papers you bring home from work, the ones from the trash?" Sarah froze. She hadn't realized Emma had noticed. "Sometimes people throw away important things without realizing it, sweetheart. Information is valuable, even if it comes from unexpected places." Later that night, Sarah returned to Blackwood Tower for her cleaning shift. The 38th floor was in chaos. Whiteboards covered with equations, papers scattered everywhere, the smell of stale coffee and desperation thick in the air. As she emptied wastebaskets, she couldn't help but notice the documents inside. Test parameters, psychological profiles, mathematical proofs, all discarded in frustration. She carefully folded several papers and placed them in her bag. Not to steal, but to understand, to maybe, just maybe, find something that could help Emma with her education. At home, Emma was still awake, reading by flashlight under her covers. "Mom," she whispered as Sarah checked on her, "why do you work so hard?" Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, brushing Emma's hair back gently. "So you can have opportunities I never had. So you can be one of those people in the fancy suits someday, not the invisible woman handing out flyers." Emma hugged her mother tightly. "You're not invisible to me." Sarah held her daughter close, unaware that in 3 weeks their lives would change forever. Unaware that Emma had been secretly reading every document she brought home, her young mind processing patterns that escaped even brilliant adults. October 9th, 1 week into the challenge. The 38 experts had divided into factions, each group convinced they held the key to Nathan Blackwood's mysterious test. The main conference room looked like a war zone of intellectual combat. Equations battled legal precedents across whiteboards, while psychological theories clashed with economic models on every available surface. Dr. Harrison Wells led the mathematics faction, his usually pristine appearance now disheveled after days of minimal sleep. "The pattern is definitely numerical," he insisted, pointing at a complex algorithm. "Every document Blackwood has provided contains hidden mathematical sequences. It's a cryptographic puzzle." Patricia Coleman disagreed vehemently, her power suit wrinkled but her argument sharp. "You're overthinking it. This is about corporate law. Blackwood's father lost his empire to a hostile takeover. The test relates to finding a legal loophole that could have prevented it." Dr. Marcus Chen, a renowned psychologist from Stanford, shook his head. "You're both missing the psychological component. Nathan Blackwood is testing us, not our knowledge, but our behavior under pressure. The answer isn't in solving anything, it's in how we approach the problem." Meanwhile, Sarah Mitchell moved silently through the chaos, emptying trash bins and wiping down surfaces. The experts talked over her, around her, through her, as if she were furniture. She'd learned to become invisible, to blend into the background, skills that served her well as she observed their mounting frustration. "This is impossible," shouted James Morrison, a tech entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, throwing a stack of papers across the room. "We've analyzed every document, every clue, every possible interpretation. There's nothing here." Nathan Blackwood appeared in the doorway, his presence immediately commanding attention. "Giving up already, Mr. Morrison? It's only been a week." "With respect," Dr. Wells interjected, "you've given us incomplete information. We need more data, more context." Nathan's smile was ice cold. "I've given you everything you need. The problem isn't the information, it's your perspective. You're all so trapped in your expertise that you can't see beyond it." He walked to the window, gazing out at the Chicago skyline. "My father built this empire by seeing what others couldn't. He lost it because he stopped looking in the right places. This test is his legacy, and my curse." Sarah quietly collected the scattered papers from Morrison's outburst, glancing at them as she worked. Financial projections, patent applications, acquisition proposals, all stamped with dates from 2 years ago, just before Mr. Blackwood Sr.'s death. That evening, she found Emma at the kitchen table, surrounded by the documents she'd been bringing home. "Mom, I found something weird," Emma said, her young face scrunched in concentration. "All these papers talk about the same company, Prometheus Industries. But look," she arranged several documents in chronological order. "The signatures change, same name, but the handwriting is different." Sarah studied the papers, her tired eyes struggling to focus. Emma was right. The signature reading Nathan Blackwood Sr. appeared on documents dated after his reported death. "Sweetheart, this is—" She stopped, realizing the implications. "Emma, you can't tell anyone about this." "But Mom, if it's important—" "It's dangerous," Sarah said firmly. "These are powerful people. We're nobody to them. Promise me you won't get involved." Emma nodded reluctantly, but her mind was already racing. The next day at school, she couldn't concentrate. Her teacher, Mrs. Peterson, noticed her distraction. "Emma, is everything all right?" "Mrs. Peterson, if you knew something important but telling someone might get you in trouble, what would you do?" The elderly teacher smiled kindly. "Well, sometimes the right thing to do isn't the easy thing. But I've found that the truth has a way of coming out, especially when innocent people are being hurt." That afternoon, Emma made a decision. She used the school computer to research everything she could about Prometheus Industries and the Blackwood family. What she discovered made her gasp. The company that destroyed Blackwood Sr. wasn't a competitor. It was a shell corporation he'd created himself. But why would someone destroy their own empire? Back at Blackwood Tower, the experts were reaching their breaking point. Arguments turned into shouting matches. Dr. Chen had started profiling his colleagues instead of working on the test. Two economists had gotten into a physical altercation over market theory interpretations. Sarah watched it all unfold as she cleaned, noting how these brilliant minds were destroying themselves from within, just like Blackwood Sr. had destroyed his own company. That night, she shared her observation with Emma. "They're all fighting each other instead of working together," Sarah said. "It reminds me of something your grandmother used to say, 'A house divided against itself cannot stand.'" Emma's eyes lit up with understanding. "Mom, what if that's the point? What if Mr. Blackwood wants them to fail? What if the test isn't about finding an answer but about proving something else?" Sarah pulled her daughter close. "Stay away from this, Emma. Please, we can't afford to get involved with these people." But Emma had already made up her mind. The truth was hiding in plain sight, and she was the only one who could see it. October 16th, 2 weeks into the challenge. Emma stood outside Blackwood Tower after school, watching the experts stumble out for their permitted afternoon break. They looked haggard, defeated, brilliant minds brought to their knees by an unsolvable puzzle. She recognized Dr. Wells from the photos in the documents her mother had brought home. Gathering her courage, she approached him. "Excuse me, Dr. Wells." The mathematician barely glanced down. "No signatures, no photos, I'm busy." "I'm not a fan," Emma said quietly. "I think you're looking at the problem wrong." That stopped him. He turned, seeing her for the first time, a small girl in worn clothes, backpack covered in hand-sewn patches. "I'm sorry, what?" "The mathematical sequences you found, they're not random, they're dates. Important dates in the Blackwood family history." Dr. Wells knelt down, suddenly interested. "How could you possibly know what we've been working on?" Emma pulled out one of the crumpled papers from her backpack. "My mom cleans your offices. You throw away a lot of papers. I like puzzles, so I've been trying to solve them too." "This is highly confidential," Dr. Wells began, but Emma interrupted. October 31st, 1996, Nathan Blackwood's birth. March 15th, 2022, his father's death. November 23rd, 2021, the day Prometheus Industries was incorporated. Every sequence you've found converts to a date that matters. Dr. Wells stared at the child in amazement. "We considered dates, but the pattern didn't." He paused, pulling out his phone to check his notes. "My God, you're right. But how did you see it?" "Because I'm not trying to prove I'm smart," Emma said simply. "You're all so worried about being wrong that you're afraid to see what's obvious." Before Dr. Wells could respond, Emma disappeared into the crowd of pedestrians. He stood there holding the paper she'd given him, mind racing with new possibilities. Inside the tower, Sarah was preparing for her evening shift when Tom, the security guard, pulled her aside. "Sarah, I need to warn you. There are cameras everywhere. Mr. Blackwood knows someone's been taking documents from the trash." Sarah's blood ran cold. "I haven't taken anything important, just recycling." "I'm not accusing you," Tom said quietly. "I'm trying to protect you. Be careful." These people don't play games. That night, Sarah worked in silence, avoiding the conference room where the experts were having another heated debate. But she couldn't help overhearing Patricia Coleman's sharp voice. Wells claims he had a breakthrough but won't share it. Says he needs to verify something first. This is exactly what Blackwood wants, us turning against each other. Meanwhile, at home, Emma was putting together the final pieces of the puzzle. She'd mapped out the entire corporate structure of Prometheus Industries, traced the shell companies, followed the money. It all led back to one person, but not the one everyone suspected. Her bedroom wall was covered with string, connecting different documents, like something from a detective movie. At the center was a photo she'd found online of Nathan Blackwood and his father at a charity gala, taken just weeks before the elder Blackwood's death. Both men wore identical watches, unusual vintage pieces worth more than her family's apartment. The next morning, Emma made a decision that would change everything. She wrote a note to her mother. "Mom, I have to do the right thing. Remember what you taught me. Sometimes the truth is more important than being safe. I love you." She took the most important documents, the ones that proved everything, and headed to school. But instead of going to class, she walked the 12 blocks to Blackwood Tower. The security desk stopped her immediately. "No children allowed without a parent." "Please," Emma begged. "I need to see Mr. Blackwood. It's about his father." The guard laughed. "Sure, kid. And I need to see the president about my taxes." Emma pulled out the document with the forged signature. "This proves his father is still alive." The laughter died. The guard's hand moved to his radio. Within minutes, Emma was being escorted to the executive elevator. Her heart pounded as the floors counted up 20, 30, 40. At the 50th floor, the doors opened to reveal Nathan Blackwood himself, standing in his private office. "So," he said, his cold eyes studying her intently, "you're Sarah Mitchell's daughter, the cleaning lady's child who thinks she's solved my unsolvable test." Emma stood tall despite her fear. "I don't think I've solved it. I know I have, and you know it too, because this was never about them finding the answer. It was about proving they couldn't." Nathan circled her slowly, like a predator studying prey. "Elaborate. Your father isn't dead. He destroyed his own company to teach you a lesson, that brilliance without wisdom leads to destruction. These 38 experts represent the 38 board members who betrayed him, and you're testing whether they've learned anything. They haven't." For the first time since the test began, Nathan Blackwood smiled, a genuine smile. "And how does an 8-year-old see what 38 geniuses cannot?" Emma reached into her backpack one final time. "Because my mom taught me that the most important things in life aren't found in boardrooms or equations. They're found in the spaces between, in the trash, in the silence, in the invisible people who see everything because no one sees them." Nathan Blackwood stared at the 8-year-old girl standing fearlessly in his office. The documents she'd spread across his desk told a story he'd thought perfectly hidden, a conspiracy of truth that 38 experts had failed to uncover in 2 weeks of intensive investigation. "You know my father is alive," he said. "Not a question, but a statement." Emma nodded. "He's been sending you messages through the test parameters. Each document contains a letter, first letter of every 7th paragraph. It spells out, 'I am watching you, learn my lesson.'" Nathan's composure cracked slightly. "How long have you known?" 3 days, but I needed to be sure before I came here. Mr. Blackwood, Nathan, your father didn't abandon you. He's trying to teach you something about power and humility." The young billionaire walked to his window, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. "My father built an empire on crushing anyone who stood in his way. Those 38 experts downstairs, they represent every type of person he destroyed: mathematicians whose theories he stole, lawyers he corrupted, psychologists he manipulated." Emma approached slowly. But you're not him. That's why you're running this test. You want them to fail, because if they do, it proves your father was right, that intelligence without conscience leads nowhere. You're very insightful for someone so young, Nathan said quietly. My mom says wisdom doesn't come from age or education. It comes from paying attention to life's real teachers: struggle, loss, love. She pulled out another document. This is the real test, isn't it? Not whether they can solve a puzzle, but whether any of them will admit they need help, whether they'll look beyond their own egos. Nathan turned to face her. 2 weeks, and not one of them has suggested collaborating with anyone outside their expertise. Not one has asked for help from someone they consider beneath them. Except Dr. Wells, Emma corrected. He listened to me yesterday. He's different from the others. Meanwhile, 50 floors below, chaos erupted in the conference room. Dr. Wells had just presented Emma's discovery about the dates, claiming it as his own breakthrough. The other experts attacked it immediately, accusing him of desperation. This is absurd, Patricia Coleman shouted. You're telling us the answer has been in the dates all along? We checked dates on day 1. Dr. Wells stood his ground. Not like this. Look, every mathematical sequence, when converted properly, corresponds to a significant event, but more importantly, they form a timeline that tells a story. Dr. Chen studied the board with new interest. My God, he's right. The psychological profiles we were given, they match the personality types of the board members from Blackwood Senior's company. Which means, Morrison added slowly, we're not solving a test. We're reenacting something that already happened. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't experts brought to solve a problem. They were pawns in a larger game. Sarah, mopping the floor nearby, watched the revelation unfold. Her heart raced as she realized Emma must have shared her discoveries. Pride mixed with terror. Her little girl was playing with fire. Back in Nathan's office, Emma pulled out her final piece of evidence. Mr. Blackwood, there's something else. The $10 million prize. It's not real, is it? Nathan raised an eyebrow. What makes you say that? Because $10 million is exactly what your father donated to charity the day before he died. You're not offering a prize. You're returning stolen money. You really have figured it all out, haven't you? Nathan's voice held a note of respect, except for one thing. Emma tilted her head. What's that? Why I chose your mother's building for this test. Why I made sure she would be the one cleaning these offices. The little girl's eyes widened. You know her? I know of her. 3 years ago, Sarah Mitchell wrote a letter to my father's company. Her husband had been killed in a construction accident at one of our sites. She didn't ask for money or threaten to sue. She asked for something else, for the company to improve safety standards so no other family would suffer like hers. Nathan pulled out a worn letter from his desk. My father laughed at it, threw it away, but I kept it. It was the first time I'd seen someone respond to tragedy with wisdom instead of vengeance. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Mom never told me she wrote to you. She doesn't know I have it, but when I decided to run this test, I made sure it would be here, where she works. I wanted to see if that kind of wisdom could be inherited, if perhaps the daughter of the only person who ever showed my family genuine compassion might see what others couldn't. A knock at the door interrupted them. Tom, the security guard, entered nervously. Mr. Blackwood, the experts are demanding to see you. They say they've discovered something about the test. Nathan looked at Emma. What do you think I should do? Emma smiled, wisdom beyond her years shining in her eyes. Tell them the truth. But first, maybe you should call your father. I think he's waited long enough to know his son learned the lesson. Nathan picked up his phone, dialing a number he hadn't used in 2 years. As it rang, he looked at the little girl who had solved not just his test, but the riddle of his own heart. Hello, son, came the voice on the other end. I've been waiting for your call. The elevator descended slowly, carrying Emma and Nathan Blackwood toward the conference room where 38 experts waited in turmoil. Emma's small hand gripped the folder containing the truth, documents that would shatter everything the assembled minds believed about their task. "Are you ready for this?" Nathan asked, his usual cold demeanor replaced by something almost paternal. Emma nodded, though her heart raced. "Mr. Blackwood, what will happen to them when they learn the truth? That depends on them. My father is waiting on video call to explain everything, but first they need to hear it from you, the child who saw what they couldn't." Ma. The elevator doors opened to chaos. The experts were in heated debate, papers flying, voices raised. They fell silent as Nathan entered, but their shock was complete when they saw Emma beside him. "Ladies and gentlemen," Nathan announced, "I'd like you to meet Emma Mitchell. She has something to tell you." Patricia Coleman stood up, indignant. "This is absurd. You're bringing a child into—" "The same child who solved in 3 days what you couldn't in 2 weeks," Nathan interrupted coldly. "The daughter of Sarah Mitchell, the woman who cleans your offices. The woman none of you have even noticed exists." Sarah, who had been cleaning in the corner, dropped her mop. "Emma, what are you doing here?" "It's okay, Mom," Emma said, walking to the front of the room with confidence that belied her age. "I need to tell them what they missed." She opened her folder and began placing documents on the display board. "Every one of you was chosen for a specific reason. Dr. Wells, you published a paper on probability theory that Blackwood Sr.'s company used without attribution. Ms. Coleman, you lost a case against them that destroyed your first firm. Dr. Chen, they stole your psychiatric evaluation methods for employee screening." The experts exchanged stunned glances as Emma continued listing their connections. "But you weren't brought here for revenge or justice. You were brought here to prove a point, that brilliance without humility leads to self-destruction. You've spent 2 weeks destroying each other instead of working together, exactly like the board members who caused Blackwood Sr.'s empire to collapse." Dr. Wells stood slowly. "You're saying we were set up to fail?" "No," Emma replied. "You were given every opportunity to succeed. The answer was always simple. Ask for help. Look beyond yourselves. Notice the invisible people who might see what you miss." She pulled out the final document. "Nathan Blackwood's father is alive. He's been watching this entire test. He destroyed his own company to teach his son that power without compassion is meaningless. And now his son is teaching you the same lesson." The room erupted in outcry, but Nathan raised his hand for silence. The main screen flickered to life, revealing an older man with Nathan's same sharp features but warmer eyes. "Hello, everyone," Blackwood Sr. said. "My name was Nathan Blackwood Sr. 2 years ago, I faked my death and destroyed my empire because I realized I had built it on the suffering of others. People like Dr. Wells, Ms. Coleman, and yes, people like Sarah Mitchell, whose husband died because I cut corners on safety to save money." Sarah gasped, her legs trembling. Emma ran to support her mother. "Each of you represents someone I wronged," the elder Blackwood continued. "This test was never about intelligence or problem-solving. It was about whether any of you would demonstrate the qualities I lacked: humility, compassion, and the wisdom to see that the most valuable insights often come from unexpected sources." Patricia Coleman's voice shook. "So there's no prize? No $10 million? "On the contrary," Nathan Jr. spoke up. "The prize is real, but it goes to the person who actually solved the test. Emma Mitchell has shown more wisdom at 8 years old than I had at 28. The full $10 million will be placed in a trust for her education and her mother's security." The room fell silent. Then, unexpectedly, Dr. Wells began to clap. Slowly, others joined in, applauding the little girl who had exposed their blindness. But Emma wasn't finished. "There's one more thing," she said, her voice carrying over the applause. "Mr. Blackwood Sr., you're wrong about something. These people aren't just symbols of who you wronged. They're human beings who've spent 2 weeks suffering for your lesson. If you really want redemption, you owe them more than an apology." The older man on the screen leaned forward. "What do you suggest, young lady?" Emma looked around the room at the exhausted faces. "Give them what they really came for. Not money, but opportunity. Fund their research, Dr. Wells. Support Ms. Coleman's pro bono work. Help Dr. Chen's clinic. Don't just apologize. Act." Nathan Jr. smiled, genuinely this time. "I told you she was special." He turned to the room. "Emma's right. Each of you will receive funding for your most important work, the projects that help others, not just yourselves. But there's a condition." "What condition?" Morrison asked warily. "You must work together, form a foundation, use your combined expertise to solve real problems for real people. And Sarah Mitchell will be on the board of directors, ensuring you never forget that wisdom comes from every level of society." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I don't have the education." "You have something more valuable," Nathan said. "You have the perspective these brilliant minds lack. You see the human cost of their decisions." Emma squeezed her mother's hand. "Remember what Grandma always said. The truth hides in plain sight, dressed as something ordinary." As the experts absorbed this revelation, Emma noticed something crucial. They were no longer standing in separate groups. The conference room fell silent as Emma pulled out the final document from her worn backpack. "There's something else," she said, her 8-year-old voice trembling slightly. "The biggest secret of all." Nathan Blackwood leaned forward, his cold eyes suddenly alert. "What do you mean? You've already exposed everything." Emma shook her head, her brown curls bouncing. "No, I found something in the trash 3 days ago, something that changes everything about why we're really here." She unfolded a medical report dated 2 years ago. "Mr. Blackwood Sr., you didn't fake your death just to teach your son a lesson. You were actually dying. Terminal brain cancer. 6 months to live." The room gasped. On the screen, Blackwood Sr.'s face went pale. "How did you—" "The oncology department throws away a lot of papers," Sarah said quietly from the corner, finally understanding what her daughter had discovered. "I've been cleaning those offices for 3 years," Emma continued, her voice stronger now. "You found out about the 3 people planning to kill you, Ms. Coleman, Dr. Chen, and Mr. Morrison. But instead of stopping them, you saw an opportunity. If you were dying anyway, why not use your death for something meaningful?" Patricia Coleman stood abruptly, her face white. You knew we were planning to poison him?" "Yes," Emma said simply, "but he switched the drinks that night. The poison you gave him was just colored water. He took the real poison himself later, something that would fake death but not cause it. He needed to disappear before the cancer became obvious." Dr. Chen sank into his chair. "My God, we thought we were murderers. For 2 years I've lived with the guilt of thinking I killed a man." "But you didn't," Emma said gently. "He used your anger to fake his death, then used experimental treatment in Switzerland. The cancer is in remission now, but nobody knows that except his doctors." Morrison laughed bitterly. "So we were pawns all along? Our revenge was just part of his plan?" "No," Emma said firmly. "Your pain was real. What he did to all of you was real, but he chose to transform everyone's pain into something better. That's why you're all here." She pulled out another document. "This is the real test. Not solving puzzles or finding clues. It's about whether people who've been wronged can choose forgiveness over revenge. Whether brilliant minds can overcome their egos to work together. Whether someone like my mum, who lost everything, can still see good in people." Nathan stood slowly, staring at his father's image on the screen. "Is this true? The cancer, the treatment, everything?" His father nodded slowly. "Every word." Emma found what none of you could because she wasn't looking for intelligence or revenge. She was looking for truth. And truth, as her grandmother apparently said, hides in plain sight. Sarah stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Blackwood, my husband died at your construction site. You could have helped us, but you didn't. Do you know what that did to us?" "I know," Blackwood Sr. said quietly, "and I'm sorry. That's why I made sure this test happened in your building. I wanted someone with your wisdom, your compassion despite suffering, to be part of whatever came next." Emma took her mother's hand. "Mum, remember what you told me about Dad? That holding on to anger would dishonor his memory? That's what you're teaching all of them now." Dr. Wells cleared his throat. "This child has shown more wisdom than all of us combined. I motion that whatever foundation we create, Emma Mitchell should have a permanent voice in it." "Seconded," said Morrison immediately. "But I'm only 8, Emma protested. "I have school, I have—" "You have a gift," Nathan interrupted, "and we need it. We need someone who sees truth when we see only complexity." The next morning, Chicago Tribune's headline read, "8-year-old genius solves impossible test, exposes billionaire's secret." But in the Mitchell apartment, life felt strangely normal. Emma sat at their small kitchen table, eating toast, while her mother prepared for what would have been another day of cleaning. The phone hadn't stopped ringing. "Mom, are you really going to be on their board?" Emma asked between bites. Sarah sat down beside her daughter, still processing everything. "I don't know, sweetheart. I don't have their education, their experience." "You have something better," Emma interrupted. "You have wisdom from suffering. You know what it's like to be invisible. They need that." A knock interrupted them. Sarah opened the door to find Dr. Marcus Chen standing in their hallway, but not the arrogant psychologist from before. This was a broken man. "May I come in?" he asked quietly. "I need to apologize." Sarah hesitated, but Emma nodded. "Let him in, Mom." Dr. Chen sat on their worn couch, his expensive suit out of place in their modest home. "Emma, what you revealed yesterday. For 2 years, I've been in therapy thinking I was a murderer. The guilt nearly destroyed me." "But you're not a murderer," Emma said gently. "You were angry and hurt. Mr. Blackwood Sr. stole your research, ruined your reputation. Anyone would want revenge. But not everyone would plan murder," Chen said, his voice cracking. "I became a monster, and you, a child, showed me mercy I don't deserve." Emma studied him with those wise brown eyes. "Everyone deserves mercy, Dr. Chen. That's what my mom taught me when Dad died. We could have hated Mr. Blackwood forever, but hate would have poisoned us, not him." Chen pulled out a folder. "I've been developing a program for gifted children from underprivileged backgrounds. Children like you who fall through the cracks because their brilliance doesn't fit standard patterns. Would you be my first student?" Sarah's protective instincts flared. "After what you planned—" "I know," Chen interrupted. "I have no right to ask. But Emma saved me from becoming something unforgivable. Let me use my expertise for good. Let me prove people can change." Meanwhile, at Blackwood Tower, Nathan faced a boardroom revolt. "You're giving $10 million to a cleaning lady's child," board member Richard Steinberg shouted. "This is insanity." "No," Nathan replied calmly. "Insanity is repeating the same mistakes. We built wealth on exploitation. It's time to build it on elevation. The shareholders will revolt." "The shareholders don't control this decision," Blackwood Sr. said, entering the room in person for the first time in 2 years. "I still own 51%. We're restructuring, effective immediately." Eleanor Price, the oldest board member, stood slowly. "In 30 years, I've watched us prioritize profit over people. Maybe the child is right. Maybe it's time for something different." Back at the Mitchell apartment, Emma made a decision that would change everything. Dr. Chen, I'll join your program on one condition. It can't just be for me. Every child in my building, in my neighborhood, who shows potential, they get tested too. Chen smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him. Agreed. We'll call it the Emma Mitchell Initiative. Sarah's phone rang. It was Nathan. Mrs. Mitchell, we need you at the foundation meeting. The experts have voted unanimously. You're to be chairwoman of the board. That's impossible, Sarah protested. I'm not qualified. You're the most qualified, Nathan insisted. You see what we miss. You understand what we ignore. Your daughter inherited that gift from you. Emma took the phone. Mr. Blackwood, there's one more thing, the $10 million. I don't want it all. Split it among everyone who's been hurt by your father's company. Create scholarships, fund clinics, support families like ours. That's the real test, whether you can transform wealth into wisdom. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then, you really are extraordinary, Emma Mitchell. No, Emma replied. I'm just a kid who pays attention. The extraordinary part is that you're finally listening. 3 days later, Principal Mrs. Blackstone called Sarah into her office. Emma sat beside her mother, already knowing what was coming. Mrs. Mitchell, some parents have expressed concerns about Emma's recent media attention. They feel it might be disruptive to our learning environment. Sarah's face flushed with anger. You're expelling her? After everything she's accomplished? Not expelling, Mrs. Blackstone clarified quickly. But perhaps a transfer to a more suitable institution would be best for everyone. Emma squeezed her mother's hand. It's okay, Mom. I expected this. But it wasn't okay. After solving an impossible test, after showing mercy to would-be murderers, after teaching 38 experts about humility, she was still just the poor kid who didn't belong. That afternoon, an unexpected alliance formed. Patricia Coleman, Morrison, and Dr. Chen arrived at the Mitchell apartment together. We heard about the school, Coleman said. It's unacceptable. Morrison pulled out his laptop. I've already started a campaign. Every major education reformer in the country will know about this discrimination by tonight. No, Emma said firmly. No more media attention. I just want to be normal for a while. Normal? Dr. Chen laughed gently. Emma, you're never going to be normal, but that doesn't mean you can't have a childhood. We've found a solution. Coleman handed over a folder. The Acceleration Academy. It's a school for gifted children that focuses on wisdom, not just intelligence. Full scholarship, transportation provided, and they've already accepted you. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this? After everything that happened? Because your daughter saved us, Morrison said simply. Not from prosecution, but from becoming monsters. That's a debt we can never fully repay. Emma looked at the 3 people who had planned murder, now planning her future. You've already repaid it. You chose to change. That's all anyone can do. The next morning brought another crisis. Nathan called an emergency meeting. My father's cancer has returned. The experimental treatment failed. He has maybe 3 months. The room fell silent. Blackwood Sr. appeared on screen, visibly weaker than just days before. I wanted to see this through, to help build what we're creating. But time, it seems, has other plans. Emma stood up, her small voice filling the massive conference room. Then we work faster. We use these 3 months to create something that will outlast all of us. She turned to the 38 experts. Each of you has specialized knowledge. Instead of competing, combine it. Dr. Wells, your mathematics with Morrison's technology could revolutionize education. Ms. Coleman, your legal expertise with Dr. Chen's psychology could reform juvenile justice. Stop thinking individually, start thinking collectively. Blackwood Sr. smiled weakly. The child understands what took me a lifetime to learn. Individual brilliance means nothing without collective wisdom. Over the following weeks, something miraculous happened. The foundation didn't just form, it exploded into action. Free tutoring programs opened in 12 cities. Legal aid expanded to help families like the Mitchells. Medical clinics provided care regardless of payment ability. Emma attended her new school, but spent afternoons at the foundation, her insight guiding decisions worth millions. She was no longer the invisible daughter of a cleaning lady. She was the conscience of a movement. But late at night, she still struggled with the weight of what she'd uncovered. "Mom," she said one evening, "what if I hadn't found those papers? What if I hadn't solved the test?" Sarah held her daughter close. "Then 38 brilliant people would have failed. 3 would be in prison for attempted murder, and countless families wouldn't have the help they're getting now. You didn't just solve a puzzle, sweetheart. You solved people." "But I'm scared," Emma admitted. "Everyone expects so much from me now. What if I disappoint them?" "Then you'll learn what every wise person knows, that failure is just another teacher, and you, my dear one, are an excellent student." As November arrived, Blackwood Sr.'s health declined rapidly, but his spirit seemed to soar as he watched his fortune transform into a force for good. The foundation had already helped 3,000 families, funded 57 research projects, and reformed education in 18 districts, all because an 8-year-old girl had seen what brilliant minds had missed. November 15th arrived with devastating news. Blackwood Sr. had collapsed during a foundation meeting and was rushed to Chicago General. The doctors gave him 72 hours at most. Emma stood outside his hospital room, clutching a folder of drawings, architectural plans she'd created for community centers in underserved neighborhoods. Nathan found her there, tears streaming down both their faces. "He wants to see you," Nathan said quietly. "Says you're the only one he needs to talk to." Emma entered the sterile room where the man who'd built and destroyed an empire lay dying. But his eyes were bright, alert, peaceful. "Emma Mitchell," he whispered. "The child who saved my soul." "I didn't save anything," Emma protested. "I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the same thing." He gestured weakly to a chair. "I need to tell you something, a final secret." Emma sat, her small hand taking his frail one. "The test was never about the 38 experts. It was about finding you, or someone like you. Someone who could see through all the lies we tell ourselves about success and power." "I don't understand." "Your grandmother. I knew her. Years ago she applied for a job at my company. She had no formal education, but her insight was extraordinary. I rejected her because she didn't fit our image. She died in poverty while I built my empire. When I learned about your gift, I knew it was my chance for redemption." Emma's eyes widened. "You planned all of this, even my mom getting the cleaning job." "I created the opportunity, but everything else, your wisdom, your compassion, your ability to see truth, that was all you. And Sarah, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree." He coughed, struggling for breath. "Promise me something. Keep them honest. Nathan, the experts, everyone, don't let them forget that wisdom comes from unexpected places." "I promise," Emma whispered. 2 days later, Chicago mourned the public death of Nathan Blackwood Sr., this time for real. But the funeral was unlike anything the city had seen. Instead of just business elite, thousands attended. Families helped by the foundation, children in the new programs, former employees given second chances. Emma delivered the eulogy, her young voice carrying across the cathedral. "Mr. Blackwood spent his life building walls between himself and others. In his final months, he learned to build bridges instead. He taught us that it's never too late to change, never too late to choose compassion over competition." Patricia Coleman, once ready to murder him, wept openly. "Doctor." Chen held Morrison's shoulder as they grieved the man they'd hated and then forgiven. The 38 experts stood together, no longer divided by expertise, but united by purpose. After the service, Nathan pulled Emma aside. "The will was read this morning. My father left something for you." Emma expected money, maybe documents. Instead, Nathan handed her a simple leather journal. Inside, in Blackwood Sr.'s handwriting, "To Emma Mitchell, who sees truth where others see complexity. This journal belonged to your grandmother. I kept it all these years, ashamed that I'd dismissed her wisdom. Return it to its rightful heir. Let her words guide you as they should have guided me." Emma opened the journal to find her grandmother's insights, observations about patterns in business, society, human nature. At the bottom of the last page, a note in her grandmother's hand. "For my granddaughter, who will one day see what I see. Use this gift not for gain, but for good." Sarah found her daughter crying over the journal. "Mom, grandmother knew about me before I was even born. How is that possible?" "Because wisdom recognizes wisdom," Sarah said softly, "even across generations." As winter approached, the Foundation's work accelerated. The three conspirators, Coleman, Chen, and Morrison, had become its most passionate advocates. They worked 18-hour days, driven by a redemption they thought impossible. Emma returned to being a student, but her influence was everywhere. The Foundation's decisions reflected her simple principle: will this help someone who's invisible become seen? By December, the Foundation had helped 10,000 families. But for Emma, the greatest victory was smaller. Her old school had reversed its decision. Inviting her back, she declined. "I found where I belong," she told them, "with people who see me for who I am, not what they expect me to be." December 20th brought an unexpected visitor to the Mitchell apartment. A woman in her 60s, elegant despite worn clothes, stood at their door. "Sarah? I'm Grace Blackwood, Nathan's mother, Robert's ex-wife." Sarah nearly dropped the dishes she was holding. "Mrs. Blackwood? But everyone said you died years ago." "Another convenient lie, my husband told." Grace entered, her eyes immediately finding Emma. "So you're the child who accomplished what I never could, made my family feel something besides greed." Emma studied the woman carefully. "You left when Nathan was 15. Why?" "Because I saw what Robert was becoming, what he was teaching our son. I tried to fight it, but poverty has no power against wealth. So I disappeared, let them think I was dead. Easier than fighting a battle I couldn't win." "But you're here now," Emma observed, "because you did what I couldn't. You made my son human again. You gave my husband peace before he died. I needed to thank you." She pulled out a small box. "This was my mother's, and her mother's before that. It's not valuable, just a simple locket. But inside is a photo of 4 generations of women who saw truth when others saw only surfaces. You belong in that lineage, even if not by blood." Emma opened the locket. Inside were tiny photos of women whose eyes held the same penetrating wisdom she saw in the mirror each morning. They were all like me, all gifted with sight beyond sight, all dismissed by powerful men who feared what they knew. Until you're the first to make them listen. Sarah made tea while Grace told stories of the Blackwood family before wealth corrupted them. Nathan had been a gentle child, curious and kind, until his father's influence turned him cold. "You gave me my son back," Grace told Emma, "even if briefly." Nathan arrived an hour later, stopping dead when he saw his mother. "Mom?" His voice broke like a child's. "Hello, Nathan. I'm sorry I left you with him. I thought I was protecting you by disappearing. I was wrong." Mother and son embraced, 20 years of pain dissolving in tears. Emma watched, understanding that sometimes the greatest gift wisdom can give is bringing families back together. The next day, Grace attended her first Foundation meeting. Her presence changed everything. She knew where Robert had hidden assets, which victims had never come forward, which crimes had been covered up. "Full transparency," she declared. "Every wrong must be acknowledged and, where possible, corrected." Patricia Coleman stood. "Mrs. Blackwood, that could destroy what's left of the company." "Then let it be destroyed," Grace replied. "My son and Emma have taught me that building something new sometimes requires clearing away the old completely." Emma raised her hand. "What if instead of destruction we choose transformation? Every wrong that's revealed we address directly. Every victim identified, we help immediately. We turn the company's dark history into a beacon for how corporations can change." Dr. Chen nodded. "Corporate rehabilitation instead of corporate death. It's never been done on this scale." "Because no one's ever had Emma Mitchell guiding them," Morrison added with a smile. Over the following week, the Blackwood Corporation underwent a transformation unprecedented in business history. Every department was restructured around service rather than profit. Executive salaries were capped, with excess funds directed to employee support and community development. The board resisted until Emma spoke at an emergency meeting. "You can fight this and watch the company die slowly, or you can embrace it and become the model for corporate responsibility worldwide. Your choice." Eleanor Price, the senior board member, stood. "I've served this company for 30 years. I've watched it grow rich on others' suffering. I vote for transformation." One by one, others followed. Not all, but enough. By Christmas Eve, the Mitchell apartment was full of unexpected guests. The 38 experts, Nathan and his mother, even Principal Blackstone, who'd come to apologize. They'd gathered to celebrate not just the holiday, but the revolution a small girl had started. Emma stood before them all, no longer the nervous child who'd burst into a conference room weeks ago. "You all came here as strangers, some as enemies. Now you're family. That's the real miracle." Christmas morning arrived with snow blanketing Chicago. Emma woke not to presents, the Mitchells had never had many, but to the sound of her mother crying. She found Sarah in the kitchen, holding a letter. "Mom, what's wrong?" Sarah handed her the letter with trembling hands. It was from the city of Chicago, declaring January 8th, Emma's 9th birthday, as Emma Mitchell Day, in recognition of her transforming the city's approach to corporate responsibility and social justice. "They want to give you a medal," Sarah whispered. "The mayor, the governor, they'll all be there." Emma set the letter aside and hugged her mother. "It doesn't matter, Mom. What matters is what we do next." A knock interrupted them. Nathan stood at their door with Grace, but also with someone unexpected. David Mitchell's mother, Emma's paternal grandmother she'd never met. "Helen," Sarah gasped. "But you said—" "I said I couldn't bear to see the child whose father my son would never meet," Helen interrupted, tears flowing. "But I was wrong. Emma, I've been watching what you've done. Your father would be so proud. I'm sorry I stayed away." Emma ran to the grandmother she'd never known, and 3 generations of Mitchell women embraced. Helen pulled out a worn photo. "Your father at 8 years old. He had the same gift you do, seeing patterns, understanding people. But he chose construction because he wanted to build things that would shelter families. In a way, through you, he's still building." Later that day, the 38 experts gathered for an emergency meeting. Not about business, but about Emma. Dr. Wells spoke first. "We've been taking advantage of a child's wisdom without considering the cost to her. Emma needs to be a kid, not our corporate conscience." "Agreed," said Patricia Coleman. "I propose we establish a rotation. Each of us takes responsibility for different aspects of the foundation, consulting Emma only for major decisions." Dr. Chen added, "And we ensure she has time for friends, play, normal childhood experiences." We've burdened her with adult responsibilities. Emma, listening from the doorway, entered. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but you're missing something. This isn't a burden, it's my purpose. Just like Mom's purpose was keeping us together after Dad died, like Mr. Blackwood's purpose became redemption, we all have roles to play. Morrison laughed. Wisdom from an 8-year-old again. We really never learn, do we? You're learning, Emma corrected. That's what matters. January 8th arrived with unexpected revelations. At the ceremony, with hundreds attending, the mayor was about to present Emma with the medal when she stopped him. Wait, there's something everyone needs to know. She pulled out the journal her grandmother had written, Blackwood Sr.'s confession, and the documents proving the conspiracy. The real story isn't about me solving a test. It's about how broken systems create broken people, and how broken people can choose to heal rather than hurt others. She turned to the crowd. Mr. Blackwood Sr. built his empire on exploitation, creating enemies who wanted him dead. Instead of continuing the cycle, everyone chose forgiveness. That's the real miracle. Not my solving puzzles, but 38 brilliant minds choosing compassion over revenge. The crowd stood silent. Then Helen Mitchell began clapping, followed by Grace Blackwood, then Sarah. Soon the entire auditorium thundered with applause. But Emma wasn't finished. This medal shouldn't go to me. It should go to my mum, who taught me that wisdom comes from suffering transformed into love. To the 38 experts who chose to change. To the 3 conspirators who chose redemption over revenge. To Nathan and Grace Blackwood, who chose to dismantle an empire to build something better. The mayor looked uncertain. But the city council voted. Then let's share it, Emma said simply. Cut it into pieces if you have to, because change doesn't come from one person. It comes from communities choosing to be better together. Patricia Coleman stepped forward. Emma's right. We've all been transformed by this experience. The medal should represent all of us. In the end, they created something better. 43 medals, one for each person involved in the transformation, including Sarah. But the ceremony's end brought the biggest surprise. Nathan stepped to the microphone. Emma Mitchell has taught us that wisdom shouldn't be hoarded, but shared. So today, the Blackwood Foundation announces the Emma Initiative, free education for every gifted child in Chicago, regardless of economic background. And Emma's mother, Sarah Mitchell, will oversee it all as our permanent CEO. Sarah nearly fainted. Emma caught her, grinning. See, Mom? You were never invisible. You were just waiting for the right moment to be seen. As the crowd dispersed, Emma stood with her 2 grandmothers, her mother and her new family of former enemies turned allies. The secret that had changed everything wasn't about intelligence or power. It was simpler. Every person, no matter how broken, carries the seed of redemption. Sometimes it just takes a child's wisdom to help it grow.